go to letter stickers. So for instance, the word still, if you have stickers that you can buy after the season's over or something like that, then you can have your child find the letters, or so that you don't take so much time, you can have the letters placed out and in different orders, and your child can find the letters that spell that word. I'm gonna dump these onto a lid so I can see them more clearly. And I'm gonna find the letters that go with the word still. Again, you may not want to have this many letters out because it's distracting, and it's going to take your child a really long time to find the letters, and they're going to be worried about finding letters as opposed to processing and thinking about that sound. So for this example, we would find the letters in still, and again we would say the sounds. So we found the S, S, T. As we place the sticker down, we're going to say the letters sound. St, I. Then we have the L. And on this word, we talk about how we only hear one L sound, but there are actually two L letters in the word still. So we don't pronounce it as st, I, L. We just say one sound for those letters. So we might do something like this. St, I, L, with a dot for each sound we hear, and then we scoop those L's to show that they're working together. Again, using stickers like that is okay to practice some days. I wouldn't recommend doing it all of the time because making the motion of the letter and saying the sound will make those connections stronger. But practicing words one day with spelling them with stickers is fine as long as we don't do it every day. Another way that we can practice the word still or the words from your list would be using Play-Doh. And you just get the Play-Doh out and you get some cookie cutters that have the letters and just flatten that Play-Doh into a rectangle, a fairly flat rectangle, so that there's enough room to put all of the sounds for that word. You can have multiple Play-Doh pieces out there. I'm not going to do the whole word, but basically, again, what you would do is you find the letter for that, the sound, S, and we make little cookie cutter pieces with the word still. And again, I wouldn't do this every single time you practice the word because we want your child to be writing the letters and thinking about the motions that go with those letter sounds. So practicing this one day a week is fine, but not every day. So we have st, I, and then we have the ul sound. And then at the end, you can take them out. You can have your child trace the letters with their finger as they're saying and sounding out that word. So you could do s, t, I, ul, and have your child practice that way too, so that they're still making those motions and saying those sounds and writing those letters. All right, let's move on to a new word from that list. So now we have the word black. And for that example, we're going to use the pool noodles that I've cut up, and they have all different letters written on them. So the first thing, again, that we want to do is we might just say the sounds in the word black with blank pool noodles. So your child would say b, l, a, k. And then we want to find the noodle that matches, or the letter that matches the sound that we just said. So again, you can have these placed so that the letters your child will be needing will be out and they don't have to dig through and waste their time looking for those. But if not, they can look for those too. So as we go, we replace the blank noodle with the sound or the letter that goes with it. So we have the B, the B, and then we find the ul, again, putting them out can be helpful so that you're not spending so much time looking for the sounds. All right, so we found the ul, so we have the b, and then we replace that, ul. And then we have our vowel, the a, We replace that, and then finally we have the k, which is the CK together. They get written on the same piece since they're only one sound. And now we have spelled the word b-l-a-k. After your child does this, I would have them trace the letters with their finger, b-l-a-k. Because again, the more we say those sounds and we add them to the motion, the more our child is going to remember how to spell those words. All right, another thing that we might do to help our child practice spelling words would be to use beanbags. So I have all of these little beanbags, and they all have letters written on them, or letter combinations if they make one sound together. So for the word black, we would find the b, we'd find the l, we'd find the a, and we'd find the ck, k. So we would say those sounds and we'd put the bag on the table for each sound. And then what I have the children do is try to shoot baskets with these letters. So as they're saying the B sound, B, they'll shoot a basket and try to make the basket. And then L, A, K. And then they get to say those sounds again and link those sounds with the word. Again, those sounds are the most important way to have your child practice their spelling words. All right, another thing that we might do would be to use stamps and letters. So we can get out a piece of paper, and if your child is, again, working on the word black, we would just have your child find the letters that go with those sounds. So we have B, and then we find the L, and then we find the A, little A. There's the A, and then the C and K that work together. So we grab the C and the K out together. The C and the K. All right, and now when we are stamping these, we start with the first sound that we hear. As we dip it into the stamp pad, we'll say the sound B. We do the B. Then we do ul, a. And as I do the C and the K, I'll do those at the same time since they only make one sound. And then we'll put those down at the same time and say K. We also might analyze that word and think about the sounds and do a dot for each sound. B, L, A, K. Again, the C and the K only get one dot, and we scoop them together to show that they're working together. So that's what I would do with the stamps. Again, after we're done, I would typically have the child trace those with their finger and say the sounds as they trace the letters. All right, another example that we might do would be, for instance, the word job. So if I were having my child practice the word job, we might use finger paint. And on that, usually I just get a piece of paper or even a cookie cutter sheet, and they just put a blob of the paint out. And then if they were practicing the word job, they would make a dot for each sound they hear, J, A, B. And then they would link the letters to those sounds, J, A, B. And again, just practice that with all of the words on the list. All right, another way that we could practice the word job might be to use clips. So, clothespins. We can get a note card out, and your child can clip a clothespin on the note card for every sound they hear in the word. So job would be J, A, and B. After we do the sounds, then we want to link the letters to those sounds. So we have J, A, oops, writing upside down, I just wrote a D, J, A, B, job. All right, so that is what we would do to practice the words with clips. Again, each clip would represent one sound. So letters like S and H would get one clip, C and K would get one clip because those work together only to make one sound. Okay, we also can do words like this, where we have these little stamps, and each stamp has a little picture. It's like this one's a flower. So if we were working on the word job, we could do j, a, b, and make one little flower for each sound we hear. And then after that, we write the letters and say the sounds. J, a, b, job. All right, so we could practice all of the words in that same way. We could practice another way, for instance, by using Play-Doh. So you could put Play-Doh out in little balls, and I have my students pound the ball flat for each sound that they hear in the word. So for the word went from our list, they would pound w, e, n, t. And then they can use a toothpick or something like that to trace the letters in those little balls that have been flattened. So we'd write the W, w, e, n, t, went. We could also use something like Post-it notes. For every sound we hear in the word went, we could put a Post-it note. W, e, n, t. And then your child would link those sounds to letters and write the letters. W, e, n, t, went. Another idea would be to use pennies. So your child could put a penny on the piece of paper for every sound that they hear. And if they do it correctly, you could even do an additional bonus where they get to keep the pennies at the end for all of the sounds they say correctly. So if we were working on the word went, again, we would put a penny on the piece of paper, w, e, n, t. If they sound out those sounds correctly, they can keep the pennies, and then they spell the word above, each letter above the penny with the sound that goes with that letter. Okay, for the word this, let's move on with the word this and have some other examples. We might do something like this with the lights. So if we have the word this, we would touch the light for each sound, th, I, s. And after we have the sounds and your child is processing all of those sounds correctly, then we would have them on a piece of paper, write the letters that go with those sounds. So we have th, I, s, this. Another thing that you might do is use shaving cream in a cookie sheet. So the shaving cream is all spread out. You have your child make a dot for each sound or some sort of line to indicate each sound, and then you have them write the letters that go with each sound. So again, all of these things are focusing on the sounds that your child is using so that they can spell those words correctly. After that, after we practice, we want our child to recognize particular rules that those words are following. So all of those words that I've shown you so far, flag, still, black, job, went, all of those are closed syllables with short vowels. So we would use the phonics folder that we have to, on the word flag, for instance, go to the closed syllable page with the short A's, a, and then we would write it in our binder and write, again, as we write flag, l, ag, and then we would analyze it, meaning putting the dots in the scoops, and so that we're processing that word, but we're also thinking about which rule this follows and where we could put it in our binder. There will be another video that goes over this binder and talks about the different phonics rules that you can teach your child. So access that video and look at that video to help you understand and learn some of the phonics rules that your child may be using. Because I was never taught those phonics rules and didn't learn those until much later on. For a typical brain, for a child who doesn't struggle with learning language and who doesn't struggle with reading and spelling, we pick up on the rules and we get those patterns that are within rules. But children who have dyslexia and children who struggle with language and or with reading and spelling typically have a more difficult time learning how to spell words, and they need to be systematically and explicitly taught those phonics rules. All right, so those are some of the different activities that you can do to help your child practice their spelling words at home. Other ideas that you can do would be writing the words and writing the vowels in a different color. So again, you're processing it more deeply. It's helping the child to visualize and think about that word deeply, how many vowels there are. The vowels are a different color, so it's visually representing those vowels differently, and they might remember that word and how to spell it better. Another thing you could do would be to highlight the words based on this phonics folder. So all of my short vowels go in this yellow section. All of my long vowels go in the green section. All of the special vowels go in my blue section. So I have certain colors of sections. So if we were working on these words, I would highlight them in yellow because they're all short vowels. You could, again, like I said, use the stamps occasionally, but you want to make sure that your child is still tracing those letters and saying those sounds as they write the letters. Also, to practice, you could do the motions. If you've seen my video, the Letter Factory video, it talks about the sounds and the motions that you can use to help your child learn the letters sounds. So you could have your child practice doing the motions that they learned to go with those sounds and practice those to then write the words. So flag, f, o, a, g would be what you would do to practice that. And then of course you're going to link it to spelling it and writing it on a piece of paper later. You can also have your child practice typing the words. Again, I wouldn't always rely on typing because we went to that muscle movement of making the letter and saying the sound, but typing is another good way that we can practice. Right, I am going to make another video that talks about some of these words like are, you, of, and have. I call these words jail words because they don't follow the phonics rules, and we learn those words differently. So tune back in another time, and then we can discuss how you can help your child with learning the irregular phonetic words or words that are not phonetic, and what I call the jail words, so that they can learn how to remember and process those words more deeply. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you soon.